Welcome to the Here's My Story channel. I'm Layla. For my 12th birthday, my mom gave me this heart-shaped locket. Inside, there's a picture of my mom on one side and of me on the other. She told me, through this necklace, I'll be with you wherever you go. You can always look at it when you miss me. That year, both my parents died in a boating accident. I was the only one who survived. I didn't have any relatives to look after me, so I was placed in a group home. My life was completely upended. I would stare at my mother's picture and cry all day long. Eventually, a musician couple adopted me. Thanks to them, I started living again. But one day, they said to me, "Layla, we've decided to get a divorce. Unfortunately, we can't be your adoptive parents anymore." At 18, I had to go back to the group home. You're allowed to live in the home until you turn 21. Since I was over 18, I could leave whenever I wanted, but I had nowhere else to go. So I reluctantly stayed there. In the meantime, I started looking for work. If I started making money, I could get myself out of there. I'd hit rock bottom again. My only source of support was my mom, whom I was carrying inside my locket. One day, the director called me into his office. There was an old guy in the room with him. The director said, "Layla, I have great news for you. This gentleman represents a family that wants to adopt you." I did not expect this. I said, "Thank you very much, but I just turned 18. I want to start building a life on my own." The man said calmly, "Miss Layla, if you accept our offer, we will make a donation of $5 million to the home." It was obviously a wealthy family, but I was weary of another adoption adventure. I looked at the director. He was waiting for my response with excitement. Well, $5 million is a lot of money, so he was right to get excited. I had to say yes, but only because I was thinking of the home. The following day, a luxury car picked me up and took me to the airport. We got on a private plane. I didn't even know where we were going. Shortly after takeoff, the old man came to me. He told me his name was Leon and he was an attorney. "I'm sure you're curious about your new family. You're in for a big surprise, because you've been adopted by a king," he said. He was right. Of course, I was surprised. I had so many questions. I bombarded Mr. Leon with them. He politely answered all of them. He told me that the country where we were headed was made up of 3 islands in the middle of the ocean. Its total population is 170,000. The biggest island is the capital. It's a really wealthy country because 2 of the world's biggest diamond mines are located there. Its citizens are very happy and love their king very much. When we were landing, Mr. Leon showed me the palace that was built on the highest point of the island. It looked straight out of a fairy tale. I was in a dream. "Why did the king adopt me?" I asked. "You'll find out soon," he said. After landing, we took a short ride to the palace. It was even bigger than it seemed from the plane. There were portraits of the former members of the royal family on the walls. I still couldn't believe that I'd been adopted by a king. I was scared to pinch myself because if this was a dream, I did not want to wake up from it. Mr. Leon introduced me to Miss Isla. She was the butler at the palace. He told me she was the one who'd take care of me. She was a warm and friendly lady. First, she took me to the dining hall. "Would you like to eat something before you head to your room? Every day we prepare 99 dishes for the buffet. What would you like?" I thanked her and said, "I'm not hungry at all. Even seeing all this food makes me full." Miss Isla then took me to my quarters. I was staring around, mesmerized. My room was magnificent. 3 other people walked in. Miss Isla said, "The royal tailors will take your measurements. They'll make you dresses you can wear every day or on special occasions. They're thinking about 100 everyday dresses and 100 gowns to begin with. Will that be enough for you?" "Please don't get me wrong, but isn't that a little too much?" Miss Isla replied, "In that case, for now we'll do 10 each." I was going to say, even that feels excessive, but Miss Isla said, "In the morning you will meet the king. I'll leave you to rest. I'm sure you need it," and left with the tailors. I was so excited when I heard I was going to meet the king. What was he like? Would he like me? Why had he adopted me? Before I could even change my clothes, I fell asleep, a million questions running in my head. I woke up to a strange sound. It was coming from my window. Because my room was so high up, I thought it was a bird. When I opened the curtain, I couldn't believe my eyes. A giraffe was staring at me. I opened the window right away. I started petting the giraffe's head. Somebody yelled from downstairs, "I'm sorry, is she bothering you?" "No, I love this. Do you have animals like this one around here?" I asked. The person downstairs said, "We have giraffes, peacocks, deer, parrots, even pandas here. You may run into them while walking in the garden. Are you their caretaker?" I asked. "Yes, my name is Lucas," he said, and I shouted down, "Pleased to meet you. And I'm Layla." When Lucas said, "I'm pleased to meet you too. I'll see you around. Bella now needs to feed a baby," I yelled, "Can I come with you? I've never seen a baby giraffe." 5 minutes later, I was with Lucas alongside the baby giraffe. "Unfortunately, this baby's mother died during labor. Bella is feeding her," he said, and I started tearing up. I opened up my locket and showed him my mom's picture. "I'm sorry, I don't usually cry this easily. I lost my mom too. Not a day passes when I don't miss her," I said. Lucas turned to the baby giraffe. "This little boy's name is Lucas. Do you know why I gave him my own name? Because he's an orphan like me. Every time I look at him, I remember I'm an orphan and I think about my mother. If we ever have a female baby giraffe, we'll name her after you," he said, smiling. At that moment, I heard Miss Isla calling for me. I'd almost forgotten that I was going to meet the king. I said goodbye to Lucas and ran to her. "The king is in a meeting right now. Meanwhile, we can go and visit a spot which I think you will love," she said. After passing through many doors, we came to the place Miss Isla was talking about, a jewelry store. It had a sparkling display. When we entered, I asked, "There's a jewelry store inside the palace? Is it only open to the royal family?" Miss Isla and the man inside laughed. Miss Isla replied, "This is not a store. These are the royal jewels. You can take anything you want." The man was holding a necklace made up of gigantic diamonds. "Would you like to try this? It's one of the most valuable necklaces in the world," she said. I held on to my own necklace. "Thanks so much, but I already have the world's most valuable necklace right here." Miss Isla was taken by surprise. "Are you sure? You can have whatever you want from here. I don't think any girl can resist these pieces of jewelry," she insisted. "Thanks so much, but I don't ever want to wear anything other than this necklace," I replied. Miss Isla said, "In that case, we can now go and meet the king. I'm sure he'll be delighted to see you." When we came to the entrance to the throne room, Miss Isla pointed to a chair and asked me to wait there. Then she went in to talk to the king. Half an hour later, the door opened. Miss Isla invited me in, saying, "Our king and our prince are waiting for you." Going into the throne room, I was so excited I thought my heart would jump out of my chest. I was staring at the floor because I didn't know what else to do. After taking a few steps, I stopped. I heard the baritone of the king's voice. "Come here, Layla. Lift up your head so I can see your pretty face. This palace has been waiting for you for a long time," he said. When I looked up, I saw the king and the prince next to him. I was so baffled that I almost fainted because the person next to the king was Lucas. He was enjoying seeing the surprise on my face and smiling mischievously. The king said with a smile, "You have every right to be surprised. I'd be surprised too if I saw the animal caretaker I just met this morning as a prince later the same day. You might be even more surprised when you hear the rest of the story. Ever since you entered the palace, you've undergone a series of tests. You're the 46th girl who came here. Each of you had been handpicked from 46 group homes all over the US. But unfortunately, the previous 45 girls had been disqualified before they could get to this phase. You're the first girl who's passed all the tests and met me in person." I didn't quite get what the king was talking about, but I was still too excited to speak. All I could do was smile. The king looked up. He was quiet for a while, and then he stared at a painting on the wall. Then he turned to me again. "The lady in that painting is my dear wife, Olivia. I met her in New York and fell in love with her at first sight. Soon after, we got married. I was only a prince back then. When my father passed, I came back here and was inaugurated as the king. Olivia became the queen. We were a very happy couple. When Lucas was born, we became a very happy family. For years, we ruled our country in peace. But every fairy tale comes to an end. Olivia passed away last year. She had grown up in an orphanage. She wanted Lucas to marry an orphan too, so we wanted to fulfill her wish. Miss Isla designed several rounds of tests for us to pick the best bride for the palace. Miss Isla, please go on if you like." "With pleasure, my king. Our first and easiest test was the all-you-can-eat buffet. 3 of the girls who came to the palace couldn't resist it and ate for hours. And of course, they got disqualified in the first round. 8 girls were disqualified during the dress test. They quickly accepted my offer to make 100 everyday dresses and 100 special gowns. For some of them, even that wasn't enough. That's why they didn't get to the next round. 11 of the girls who came to the palace were disqualified during the giraffe test. Some of them were scared of the giraffe. Some of them looked down on Lucas because he was the animal caretaker and didn't even deign to talk to him. Only you, among all the girls, went to see the baby giraffe along with Lucas. 23 of the candidates were disqualified at the last round, which was the jewelry test. When they saw all the jewels, they almost lost their minds. They wanted to get so many rings, earrings, and necklaces. This, of course, showed us how greedy they were. You didn't want any of it. And that's how you passed all the tests and became the first girl to meet our king. And what do you think happened next? The king looked to his son. "It's your turn now," he said. Lucas got down on one knee in front of me and asked, "Will you be my wife and our princess?" You've probably guessed what my answer was. We're now engaged. We're getting married next month. By the way, a female baby giraffe was born, but I didn't give her my name. I named her after my mom. Now there's one more thing that reminds me of my mom every time I look at it.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Here Is My Story channel. I'm Janine. One night, I had a dream in which I was in the basement of our house. While looking for something, I don't know what, I discovered a secret room. At first I was afraid, but then curiosity got the best of me and I went in. It was such a realistic dream. I was looking around the room when suddenly the door shut behind me. It was completely dark and I started screaming. I woke up right away. I was drenched in sweat. I looked around, scared. I was in my room. Thankfully, it was just a dream, I thought. Suddenly, I realized something. The secret room was real. What I saw in my dream had actually happened to me when I was 5 or 6 years old. I had been looking for our neighbor's cat in the basement. I heard the neighbor tell my mom that her cat went missing the day before. I thought it might be in our basement, so I went down there. Somehow, a door happened to open in one of the walls. I remember going into the hidden room, but I don't remember what happened there at all. All of a sudden, the light went off. It was pitch black, and I was scared to death. I guess my brain simply erased this memory because it was so traumatic. But when I dreamed of it, it came right back. It was a clear memory, as if it happened yesterday. I couldn't remember who it was that got me out of the room. I thought I could ask my mom about it. My mom is a designer, and my dad is a software developer. They both work from home. I rushed into my mom's home office. I said, "Mom, I have something important I need to ask you." She looked at me, smiling. But when I began to tell her about my dream, her smile froze. "The secret room in the basement is real, right? How did I ever get out of it?" I asked. Mom didn't know what to say. "Janine, it was just a dream. There's no secret room in the basement," she said. She got mad when I wouldn't drop it. "I'm really busy right now," she said and shooed me away. I figured my mom was lying, but I didn't say anything. I decided to find the secret room myself. Both my parents and I go to bed really early. We're usually asleep by 10 p.m. That night, after my parents went to bed, I quietly went down to the basement. I scanned the walls with the flashlight. There had to be a secret door somewhere. I kept looking and looking, but I couldn't find it. I was feeling really sleepy. When I got back to my room, I heard people outside talking. I looked out the window. There was a car parked across the street, and my dad was talking to the people inside. I was really surprised. What was my dad doing outside so late? Who was he talking to? The next evening, I was in the basement again after everyone went to bed. I had an idea. If the secret door had opened while I was looking for the cat, maybe I should try looking along the bottom part of the wall. When I pointed my flashlight down, I saw a brick that was sticking out. When I pushed it back into place, I heard a mechanism. Then a tiny door opened inside the wall. I got really excited. The light in the secret room switched on by itself. I walked in. Inside, there was a table, a few chairs, a couch, and a bunch of cabinets. There were no cobwebs. It seemed the room had been cleaned recently. There was a walkie-talkie on the table. When I opened the first cabinet, I screamed, "No way!" There were 2 huge rifles and 2 handguns in there. I opened another cabinet. It was full of canned food. It was clear that this room was designed to hide in during an emergency or even live in for a while. When I opened the small cabinet next to the couch, I saw that it was full of documents, envelopes, and maps. I picked up an envelope. There were a few photos in there. I took it back to my room. I was excited to look through the photos. There was a wedding photo of a couple I didn't recognize, a baby photo, and another one of the 3 of them together. I was confused. Why do we have someone's family photos? Why was there a secret room in our basement? What was the deal with the walkie-talkie and the guns? Why did my mom lie to me and say there was no room? Who were the men that my dad was talking to? Just as I was about to go to sleep, I had an idea. I took out all the photos one by one. I took separate pictures of the man and the woman with my phone. Then I went on to Google Images. I clicked the search by image icon. I uploaded the woman's photo. I got no results. Then I uploaded the man's photo. This time, I got a bunch of results. My heart was pounding. I clicked on the top link. It was a news site. I started reading. This guy had been a famous mafia boss in the past. He had been the head of all the gangs in New York. He had thousands of men working for him. The police worked for a long time to collect enough evidence to put him away. Finally, he got arrested and was convicted and was sentenced to life in prison. Nobody knew which prison he was sent to because the police were scared that his men would try to break him out. Now, I was even more confused than earlier. Why did we have photos of a mafia boss and his family in our basement? Was my dad working for him? This was a ridiculous idea, but I couldn't think of any other explanation. The next night, I went down to the secret room again. I had to find more information. I opened the cabinet where I found the photos. As I was looking to see if there was anything else, I found an ID card. From the photo, I could tell it was the ID of the mafia boss's wife. That's how I learned her name. The secret room had no phone signal, so I came back to my room. I Googled the woman's name. There were only 2 results. Both were news stories about a traffic accident. She had lost control of her car while speeding and flew from a bridge into the river. She had her baby with her. They both died. Instead of solving the mystery, every new bit of information was making things even more complicated. I was so curious to find out what all this meant. I looked out the window to check if the car I saw the night before was still there. And it was. The light in the car was on, and I could make out the faces of the people inside. There were 2 men inside, a driver and a passenger. The passenger was my dad. They were chatting and laughing. A few minutes later, another car came and parked behind them. A woman came out. My dad got out of the car. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw my dad and this woman embrace each other. Was this woman my dad's lover? Then he got into her car and they left together. I had to tell my mom what I'd just seen. She would definitely be upset, but she had to know that my dad was having an affair. I walked into my parents' bedroom crying. My mom woke up and screamed, "Janine, what's wrong?" "Mom, Dad is cheating on you. I saw it with my own eyes. He just drove away with some woman," I said. My mom held me close. She calmly said, "Why are you not in bed so late? You shouldn't have seen that." I asked her, "What do you mean? Who was that woman?" My mom smiled and said, "Janine, that's your dad's wife. Or rather, she's the wife of the man who you think is your dad." I said, "What do you mean, the man you think is your dad? Does this have anything to do with the secret room in the basement?" It was my mom's turn to be surprised. "You found that too? That's a shelter. Come on, let's go down there. I have a lot to tell you," she said. We went down to the basement. "I think you'll need these," I said as I gave her the envelope with the photos. My mom said, "Now you'll know everything you've been wondering about," and picked up the wedding photo. She pointed to the man and said, "This is your real father." "What? My dad was a mafia boss?" I screamed. "Yes, he was the most ruthless mafia boss of the century," Mom replied. "So who is this woman with him?" I asked. "That's me," she said. I said, "Mom, that can't be you. She doesn't look like you at all." Mom said, "Janine, I used to look like that. What you see now is the result of 7 plastic surgeries." The things I was learning were so outrageous. Nothing surprised me anymore. When I said to my mom, "The internet says you died in a car accident along with your baby," she said, "That's fake news. The police put that up." That's when it hit me. I grabbed the photo of the baby. "Is that me?" I asked. My mom shed a tear. "Yes, it's you, honey. Your face was completely transformed after 3 plastic surgeries. I'm really sad about that, but there was nothing else we could do," she said, and went on to explain. "When I married your father, he was working as a driver for a businessman. It turns out that person was involved in organized crime. Your father learned everything from it and got involved as well. I thought he was still working as a driver, and meanwhile, he had become a mafia boss. By the time I found out, it was too late. He had completely transformed into a criminal. You were born around that time. Your father was out of control. He was horrible towards both his men and me. I hated him, and I was also terrified of him. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore, so I took you and went to police. They'd been trying to arrest your father for years, but could never collect enough evidence. I knew all about your father's dirty laundry. He was arrested and sentenced to life in prison thanks to my testimony. Since a lot of his men were still loyal to him, you and I were in serious danger. That's why they got us into the witness protection program. First, they completely changed our appearance with a series of surgeries. Next, they gave us new names. Then we moved into this little town. It was a wild story straight out of a movie, and I was one of the characters in it. So, who is the man I call Dad? I asked. He's our bodyguard. His real name is George. The woman you saw is his real wife. Every night after you go to bed, George goes home and comes back before you're up. When he's not around, there are other people protecting us. When I said, I know, they're sitting in the car across the street, my mom laughed and said, You found out so much. I asked Mom, is this secret room for us to hide in? She said, Your father had thousands of men. Because of me, their lives were upended. They've been looking for us for years to get revenge. If they ever find out who we are and where we live, they will kill us. But don't you worry. If that happens, we'll be hiding right here. The guns are for our protection. George is, of course, going to stay with us. I was feeling really weird about all this. I had just learned some incredible things. I felt like my head was about to explode. It took me months to process all of this.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eva. One day I came down to have dinner with my parents and was surprised to see a huge pizza on the table. They were having chicken and veggies. Mom, why am I having pizza? I asked. My mom put on a fake smile and said, I thought you liked pizza. When I said, Mom, I like pizza, but you realize I've already had it 3 times this week, right? She said, Eva, please stop complaining and start eating. I have French fries and a chocolate donut for you too. My dad saw that I wasn't thrilled and laughed, saying, Eva, this is every kid's dream. Your mom is letting you have all your favorite foods because she loves you so much. Enjoy it. I was still confused after dinner. I said to myself, pizza, French fries, and donuts? Mom used to never let me eat these things because they're unhealthy. Why is she pushing them on me now? Something's not right. And the second I said it, a light bulb went off in my head. Pizza, French fries, and donuts have one thing in common. All 3 of them are extremely high-calorie foods. My mom was making me eat them because she wanted me to gain weight, and unfortunately, I knew exactly why. In order for you to understand this better, I have to tell you 2 things that happened to me recently. I have a friend whose father owns a famous clothing brand. He met my dad at a PTA meeting at school. Eva is much prettier than the models we work with. Once she gets a little older, I want her to model for our advertising campaigns, he said. A few years later, he did call my dad. We are doing a photo shoot for our new t-shirt collection. We'd like to work with Eva. She'll make good money, he told him. When my dad told me about it that night, I was so excited. To be honest, my friends often tell me I'm really pretty. They say, Eva, you look like a model. You can totally pursue a career in modeling. It's obviously super nice to hear such things, but they are my friends. I always thought they're just being nice, but this time I had a real shot at modeling. This was a great opportunity for me. But my mom wouldn't hear of it, saying, You need to go to school. You have no time for this stuff. I said, Mom, the shoot is over the weekend. It's not going to affect my school. But she came up with other excuses. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't convince her. We argued all night. In the end, I couldn't make it to the photo shoot because my mom didn't let me. A couple of days later, I came home from school and found my mom in my room. She had taken all of my clothes out of my closet. She was putting them in cardboard boxes. Mom, what are you doing? I asked. She said, You're all grown up now. These are childish clothes. I'll help you change your style. I looked into one of the boxes. I said, Mom, these are my favorite clothes. Everyone tells me how great I look in these. I don't want to change my style. She said, Eva, please stop being so difficult. Let's go get some better clothes for you, and dragged me out to go shopping with her. I was so shocked when I saw the store she was taking me to. I knew this place because my grandmother bought most of her clothes there. Even my mom wouldn't wear anything from this store. The sales attendant was surprised when my mom said we were there to shop for me. My mom made me try on a few outfits and ended up buying 3 dresses, 3 pairs of pants, and 2 tops, none of which I wanted. She was saying my style was too childish, but these clothes were for old ladies. Even though I didn't quite get why my mom was doing all this to me, I thought there had to be a good reason for it. But no matter how hard I thought about it, I couldn't come up with anything that made sense. On top of this, she also tried to force feed me all those high-calorie foods. Only after I put the 2 together, I began to see why my mom was acting this way. This is really difficult for me to say, but it seemed like my mom was jealous of me. I think her emotions got the better of her after I got that modeling job offer. This was why she didn't let me do the photo shoot. But she's my mother. She was supposed to be proud of me, not jealous. This was really hard to digest. Just to be sure, I did a quick Google search and saw that, unfortunately, it was pretty common for mothers to be jealous of their daughters. After that day, my mom was in a secret competition with me. She started changing her hairstyle every week. She was buying new clothes for herself all the time, and they looked very much like my old clothes, which she had called childish. She used to talk about how much she was against Botox, and then she went and got Botox. She was walking around with a mirror in her hand saying she wanted to get plastic surgery. I couldn't recognize her anymore. She was acting like a teen. And why? Because she was jealous of her own daughter. My mom kept pestering me as well. For example, it actually bothered her that I didn't have pimples. She said, "What kind of teenager are you? Everyone has pimples. This is not normal," and took me to the dermatologist. She told the doctor, "Eva never got a single pimple. Puberty means acne, right? What can we do to help her break out?" Naturally, the doctor looked at her like she was insane. "What do you mean? You want your daughter to have acne? There's absolutely nothing I can do about that," she said. My mom got really upset. And I was really annoyed that my mom made the effort to do something so evil. On the way back home from the doctors, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Mom, I've had a suspicion about you for some time now. I need to ask you a question," I said. My mom guessed where I was going with this. Her face turned red. She turned to me and gave me her sternest look. I ignored her and bluntly asked, "Mom, are you jealous of me?" She pulled the car over. She started screaming things like, "What are you saying?" and "Who do you think you are to say I'd be jealous of you?" I wasn't expecting such a huge reaction. My mom yelled at me for a full hour that day. She kept saying she wasn't jealous of me, but the fact that she got so mad made it so obvious that she really was. She totally lost it when she realized I was aware of it. After that day, she stopped talking to me altogether. She wouldn't even look at me. I was trying to communicate with her, but she wouldn't even respond to me. That made me really sad. I cried in my bed at night. I wish I weren't so pretty so I could have a normal relationship with my mom, I thought. I even wished I had pimples. One day at school, I was called to the principal's office. The principal said, "Eva, I have some bad news for you. Your mom fainted this morning. They took her to the emergency room. Unfortunately, she's still unconscious. Your dad gave me the hospital's address. You need to go there," and handed over the piece of paper with the address. I was so shocked. I took the piece of paper and began running to the bus stop. When I rushed into my mom's hospital room, my dad got up and gave me a hug. I came up to my mom. Her eyes were closed. She couldn't hear us. It was so sad to see her in such condition. I gave her a kiss on the forehead. "What's wrong with my mom, Daddy?" I asked. Tears started streaming down his face. "Eva, your mom is not doing well. One of her kidneys stopped functioning. They need to remove it, but we don't have enough money for surgery. I wanted to get a loan from the bank, but they wouldn't give it to us because we already have other loans. I've been trying since this morning, but I couldn't come up with a solution. Your mom needs this surgery as soon as possible. We're not in a good place, honey." I panicked when I heard all this. I didn't even want to think about losing my mom. I had to stay calm. I had to come up with a solution. Suddenly, I had an idea. I got up. "Dad, there's something I can do," I said, and rushed out the door. You might have guessed where I was heading. I had to get my friend's father who wanted me to model. Half an hour later, I was at my friend's house. We made it to her dad's office in 20 minutes. "I couldn't do the t-shirt shoot, but if you have others coming up, I'd love to work with you," I told him after explaining what was going on with my family. He was very sorry for my mom. "We'll be doing 6 different campaigns in the next few months. I want to work with you on every one of them. I'm going to pay you in advance. Our modeling fees are pretty high. I think you will be able to afford your mother's surgery," he said. Then he called the manager of the department that does the contracts. We signed a contract for 6 photo shoots. I got the payments in advance. I was so relieved. I just wanted to rush to the hospital and let my dad know. The money I made from modeling was enough to cover my mom's surgery. We even had money left over. On the day of the surgery, we were so excited. The whole thing took 10 hours. When it was done, the doctor came to speak with us. He had a concerned look on his face. After we removed the non-functional kidney, we unfortunately realized the other kidney wasn't in great shape either, so we had to remove that one as well, he said. When I heard this, I couldn't help but scream. "Oh my God! How will my mom live without her kidneys?" The doctor said, "Your mother is connected to a dialysis machine. She needs to have a kidney transplant. To do that, we need a healthy kidney that is compatible with your mother's tissue." The next morning, my dad and I got the tissue test. This was how they would determine if our kidneys were compatible. We waited anxiously until we heard the good news. My tissue was compatible with my mom's. That meant I could give her the kidney she needed. My dad and I hugged. Our life had suddenly turned upside down, but finally we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. That day, they removed one of my kidneys. Soon after, they transferred it to my mom. I was lying in bed after surgery. They brought my mom into the room. She was still under anesthesia. My kidney is inside my mom's body. I gave her life by giving my kidney, I thought, and I started crying from happiness. I was lying in one bed and my mom was in the other. She started waking up as the anesthesia wore off. She saw me in the bed next to her as soon as she opened her eyes. "Hello, my darling," she said to me. "Hi, Mommy," I replied. A single tear came out of each of my mom's eyes. She said, "I was so scared I wouldn't be able to see your beautiful face again." This was the first time my mom called me beautiful. I had promised myself I wouldn't cry if my mom got better, but I couldn't help it. We were both crying. My mom said, "I'm so sorry, honey. You never deserved any of the things I did to you. I don't know if I can ever make things up to you. If I ever start behaving that way again, ask for your kidney back," she said. We both started laughing hysterically. My dad came into the room and was surprised to see us laughing so hard. He didn't know what was so funny, but that didn't stop him from joining us.